consumption nation. 2/3 of our GDP is through consumption. We need to go back to what they used to call Yankee frugality. The way that people made it through the Depression is they were self-sustaining. They knew how to do things on their own. They weren't hoping that the government would save them. People knew better. They grew their own gardens. They fixed their own plumbing. They did their own electricity. You know, they had the skills. So people are going to be cutting back not only in what they're buying, but also in how they're eating. We've overconsumed in that area as well. Did you see the latest data that showed that more people are now obese than overweight in America? I mean, that's astounding.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be cutting back on junk. A lot of junk you don't need. And by the way, it's very telling when you see what's happened to America. Do you know the two stocks that made money in 2008 of the top 30?
I would suspect probably, McDonald's or Walmart?
McDonald's and Walmart. The two lowest common denominators, crap food and crap products. To survive in the new millennium and in this new economy that we're going in, there's going to be plenty of opportunities. We've all heard it. Fortunes are made in these times. Quality. Quality counts. Yeah, you'll make money in the restaurant business, but not serving the same junk that everybody else is serving. Smaller portions, higher quality. How about Jimbo's best steak sandwich? And a great little joint with character and a lot of characters in there. Yeah, people will beat a path to the place. You can open a coffee shop just because McDonald's is closing them down. That has to do more with the predatory practices in buying up, all the locations in a couple of blocks to drive up out the competition than it does do with demand. Yeah, people can't afford $4 cup of coffee, but guess what? They'll go to a place for the greatest crumb bun and the best cup of coffee. And again, a place decorated with character and filled with characters. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity. As the too big to fail, there's going to be a lot of gaps left over for people to move into. So economic slim fast in many different ways, and also with that Yankee mentality of use it up, wear it out, make it do without.
The next two trends that you're looking at, I want to talk about both of them at the same time. Bush gardens to cope with food shortages and food rationing, and then whole health healing.
Well, we call it Bush gardens with tongue-in-cheek. In World War II, they called them victory gardens. People were growing their own. They weren't growing this grass, that you can't eat or smoke. It's useless. So they're going to start ripping it up and starting to grow gardens, be productive with that. All that land. I mean, this land, when you go to Europe, people have gardens all over the place with grape arbors and berry bushes and fruit trees rather than using it for nothing and chemically intense lawns. So people are going to start to have to do this. And then think about it. As you're working in your garden and you're turning that soil, you don't need a machine to do it. Your body starts changing. It becomes your gym. Your garden becomes your gym. You don't have to go out to a gym. And we call it Bush Gardens because people are going to say, how'd they get their name? Well, we know how they got the name Victory Gardens. It was for victory in World War II. Well, Bush Gardens, they're going to remember this president that's going to go down in history as the worst president this country's ever had. And that's our forecast, and I think other people are on board with us. And again, I'm a political atheist, I could do 7 days. Matter of fact, they did a book on Clinton, about the atrocities and the things that he was doing. So they're going to say, how'd they get the name? Well, this guy bankrupted the country. We're fighting trillion-dollar losing wars, huge deficits, and the country was going under with him. And whole health healing really ties into it because people have to understand that health is in their own hands. And that to survive in these times, you're going to have to be healthy emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I ask people, is your doctor a drug dealer? Do you get 5 minutes of patient time and 15 prescriptions? There's not one allotropic drug on the market that cures a chronic degenerative disease. I mean, how can anybody take these drugs when you see their after effects that they say on TV? My God. The after effects. I always stay away from that thing, I love the one with Viagra, If you get an erection, it'll last more than 4 hours. A friend of mine said he'd call a caterer. But, so whole health healing is you take health in your own hands, use as many natural remedies as possible. And you see doctors that are more skilled in these fields of vitamin therapy, herbal tinctures, and vitamin counseling. such as chiropractic physicians, naturopaths, being an acupuncturist. You use the doctors for the emergency. Like, for example, I had Lyme's disease. I live in the Northeast. Boy, you bet no homeopathic stuff for me. Shoot me up with those antibiotics. I know what the dangers are. So it's a balance, whole health.
You were talking about bush gardens. People listening to this program say, oh, you got to be kidding. No, I don't see that. The Wall Street Journal did a story recently about a neighborhood where this guy had lost his job or something, and he started turning his front and backyard into crops. And next thing, the neighbors saw that. He started doing it for other neighbors, saying, okay, you supply this, and I'll do this for you, and I'll take a cut. And so here was this whole neighborhood that was growing crops in their yard. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Now I live in Kingston, New York. I used to live in Rhinebeck, and I was married at the time, and we had these huge gardens. They used to raise my own chickens. They used to make my own prosciutto. You eat stuff right from a garden, boy. There's nothing like it. You eat this lettuce, they ship it halfway across the country. It's dead by the time you bite into it. When you pick those fresh fruits and vegetables, oh, there's a whole different flavor. The palate lights up. So and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about quality. I speak all over the world. I say the same thing. Don't let your quality down. Quality is what's going to reign supreme. And we're going to see it in entertainment also, because in bad times, people want high times. And you're going to see an entertainment revival, just as it happened during the Great Depression. It was the happiest, hottest music this nation's ever seen. People are going to get dressed up again, rather than looking like a gangster look. Can you imagine? They're going to look back in history and say that's what fashion was? The lowest common denominator, the criminal class, the worst of the criminal class, they wouldn't give belts to or shoelaces to because they'd be a danger, and that's the way the people were dressing. So the people are going to understand that if they're going to want to get a job or going to move ahead, they better act sharp, be sharp, and think sharp. And that's what it's going to be. The sharp look is going to be back in.
I want to talk two final trends, and this may be the next trend, may be the one that sets off the revolution, and that is you talk about little people squeeze. Let's get into that. From property taxes to sales taxes. Here in California, we have sales taxes that, depending on which city you live in, 7 3/4 to over 8. They're talking about raising it over 10% at a time when consumption is falling. And likewise, more income taxes, more fees. This is nickel and diming people that can't afford to pay this.
It's atrocious what's happening. Every year, for years and years, they're always reassessing property, right? Real estate values go up, so too do your property taxes. Okay, they're down 18% on average this year. How about lowering them 18%? Oh, no, we're raising them 7%. I mean, come on, who's made this stuff up? Look, Jim, we saw over 2 million jobs lost in 2008. The only place there was growth, real growth, was in government. This has become the whole game. The politicians and Wall Street, hand in glove, and what they're doing is they're squeezing the little people at every end. And there's going to be an end to it because people are going to take to the streets. There's going to be tax revolts. I didn't make up the line, taxation without representation. And that's what's going on now. They're squeezing us every way. They just increased the tax on a haircut. You get in a cab, they increase the tax. Soda pop, they're increasing the tax. As I said, I'm waiting for a toilet tax because that's what they deserve, is a load of crap. I'll gladly deliver that in to the footsteps of the politicians. These guys never work a day in their lives. They're treated like kings and queens. I love the term they come up with, public servants. Oh, yeah, right. Public. They don't get their fingernails dirty, these people.
It was amazing because even when the automakers were on Capitol Hill and, the first time they showed up, they flew there in their private jets. Members of Congress have private jets that are provided by the government. So I thought it was ironic that they were lecturing them on jets when they themselves